these guys came back immediately and actually got hold of him on WhatsApp and started making demands and started saying, we've got your information and, we're going to leak it. Literally, it's people's day job to sit and try and scam you out of your money, try and scam you out of your information, or try and make your life hell. Be safe, be aware, and just know that not everybody might be as nice as what you are. Sure, bit of an interesting one. So this is actually, as with all things, actually based off proper experience. And this was as soon as yesterday. And it's relevant because it happened to a friend of mine. And it's even more relevant to you listening because he stays in the Strand. And that's around internet security. So he was hacked yesterday. We can't really figure out how. So today we're just going to discuss maybe a little bit of tips and things that you can do right now to protect yourself. It's becoming a thing. It's going to happen more and more. You need to understand that the internet's such a big part of our lives. And with that, obviously, social media and tactics, and people are really clever. Like they're out there to get your money. So the first and probably best thing to do right now is to make sure your apps are up to date. So let's start at the beginning. Make sure that your phone, especially your operating system that you're using, is up to date. Don't use dodgy apps. Make sure your apps are up to date in the first place, and try not to use the same password for all your apps. There are some apps out there that you can use to store your passwords, but generally just try and be a little bit cryptic. But don't use the same thing over and over, and don't use your name and surname. Follow the normal protocols. But that's a big one. Keep your apps up to date, because obviously, like how software works and how programs and apps and things work is, as they develop and as other technologies develop, they find loopholes, and so they continuously release updates to patch these loopholes. So that's why your apps are updating. So make sure it's always up to date. It does take a bit of data, but I promise you it's worth a bit of the extra effort. Hey.
I see. And tell us, in terms of security and that fine print T and C's applies, how easily, or what is the most common way of losing your information in terms of passwords and security?
So obviously having the same password everywhere, that's a major one. But I think it's maybe a better way to look for ways to secure yourself. A massive one is two-factor authentication. We've mentioned it before, but it's a lot like OTP for your bank. Before you log in, they ask you, they send you an SMS and you got authenticated with the SMS. That is essentially two-factor authentication, and you can set it up. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So not just because you're a business, and that's why you're active on social media, but just as an end user, as a general person, this applies to you as well. This friend of mine is a general user. He's not using it for business purposes, but he's active as the normal person is, and he was vulnerable, and he's young. So it's real and it's happening. So two-factor authentication, big one. Check all your apps. 99% of the proper apps support two-factor authentication. Use something like Google Authenticator, which essentially creates a code for you, much like the SMS you receive, and that code gets plugged into TikTok and to Facebook and to pretty much Google, Gmail, all of them support it, and that's a great way to just make sure that you're protected. It's like that extra layer of protection. And then I think the big one is like social manipulation, falling for scams and falling for promises and things by submitting information, dodgy landing pages, because there you might think you're logging into, let's say, Gmail, for example, because you need to follow a link or something. It could be something as simple as that, but it can also be super, super complicated. And I think generally just be aware. If it sounds too good to be true, we've said it before, and it sounds cliche, but it generally is, especially on the internet. So just be aware and just think about these things.
I see. And lastly, when sometimes apps ask you, do you want to sign in with Google or Facebook or any other account? Now, some of these accounts are all linked, of course, especially when it comes to Google. What is your opinion on this? Is there a safer way, or is it all the same, or does it make a difference which one you uses?
Yeah, that's like trading. I guess the convenience factor comes in here, because it's so cool that you can just log in with Google everywhere. But then be aware, if someone gets your Google password, then they can log in everywhere. And I think essentially this is most likely what happened to my friend, although we haven't looked at all the different avenues. But that is a big thing. So if you are using Google to log in everywhere, I personally am, but my Gmail password is different to my Google Workspace password, which is different to all my other passwords in any way. And I use two-factor authentication. So before I log into anything, I always have to put a code in. And it's sometimes you might think it's a bit of a schlep, and it is sometimes, but it protects you against some potentially embarrassing situations, financially, hitting you, because obviously these people exploit you and blackmail you. So, really be careful out there. There's some really nasty people, man.
And what would you recommend in terms of authenticators?
So, if you're using iPhone, although I did see that iPhone actually had a hack or an exploit or a vulnerability rather. So that's essentially where I got up with, guys, make sure your operating system is up to date. So there was a vulnerability in the Apple operating system, which has been patched. But if you're on an Apple device, they support Keychain, which oftentimes can store your passwords for you. But a two-factor authentication app that I pretty much always recommend is just Google Authenticator. It's free. It works cross-platform. It works on all phones. And it essentially does exactly what it needs to do. It's streamlined. You log in every minute. It kind of changes the code for you. So if you need to log in now and it asks for the code, you open the app, check what the code is, and just plug it in. It's a 6-digit code. So it's not that difficult, but it can seriously save you some potential heartache.
And then where do you think is the biggest gap for these hackers to get in? What is it, a specific app, or is it, how do they do this? I mean, I don't know enough about this. Do you have any clue?
There's just so many different things. So without going into like viruses in the first place that you can get through like emails, because that's been around forever. There's different viruses that come with software that you download. There's viruses that get attached to music that you download. So maybe just pay the YouTube premium price of $90 a month to get legit music. You're supporting the artist at the end of the day as well. But by downloading illegal music and things like that, you're opening yourself up to it. So be aware. So just, maybe pay the $90, be a good person, and then know that you're safe as well. So that helps for the streaming purposes. And you've got Netflix and things. I mean, I know it's expensive, but I think the safety factor and, at the end of the day, you're taking money out of the artist's mouth. So for those reasons, just pay for the proper things, avoid dodgy websites. And then I think, because obviously my thing is social media, I think the biggest thing is just reverse engineering, social engineering, scams, and people that make these promises and say that they're going to give you something in return for X, Y, and Z, and it sounds amazing and you do what you need to do. But understand, these people, that's their day job. Like they sit and perfect these methods from when they wake up to when they go to sleep. And there's even call centers in India, like literally call center sizes that just do scams on a daily basis. That's
oh my gosh.
And they rake in millions. So yeah, anyway, we digress. But to get back to the point, social media, it does happen. It is real. It can happen. Be aware of the links that you're clicking on. Be aware of the offers that you're seeing in front of you. If it sounds too good to be true, use your logic. And yeah, just generally stay off the dodgy websites.
So for instance, if somebody steals your bank card, you immediately have a number or something that can stop that bank card from being used. What can we do once we know we are hacked?
Oof, yeah.
What is step number one?
And I know my friend's actually listening, because I phoned him before this, and he's probably having a good giggle now, because yesterday it was absolute chaos. He phoned me because obviously him thinking I might have some advice, and I honestly said to him, I said, because I know what I know, the way to now stop this is incredibly difficult. Because what they will do is, for example, they will get into your Gmail by having your password. Let's use that as an example. And this is potentially what happened in some way. They got hold of that password. And the first thing they do is they change the recovery email of your Gmail account. So where you would, in my case, I've got my wife's email. So if I ever lose my password for some weird reason, then I can reset it through her Gmail account. And the first thing they do is they go and change that, and then they go and change your password. So you think, oh, my password's been changed. You go and try and change your password. You reset the link, and it just never arrives. So that is in the first place a big warning sign. But be aware of, these guys came back immediately and actually got hold of him on WhatsApp. And started making demands and started saying, we've got your information, and we're going to leak it and whatever else. And so yeah, it's real, and he stays in Strand. So I'm not making this stuff up. Be safe out there.
Any last thoughts on that, Richard?
I honestly think just I think the biggest thing is just be aware. Literally, it's people's day job to sit and try and scam you out of your money, try and scam you out of your information, or try and make your life hell. So by all means, use social media, and I think let's really use social media to its full potential, and I think it is the way of the future. But with that being said, be safe, be aware, and just know that not everybody might be as nice as what you are.